We have a very, very, very busy Tuesday here in New York City. Evan and Tiki, a lot to get to. The New York Rangers have won the President's Trophy. Congratulations to them. The New York Islanders are going back to the postseason. Congratulations to them. We will unveil 4 more in the New York top 20 of the greatest draft picks in New York sports history. Numbers 16 through 13. That's coming up at 4 o'clock. Our buddy CP the Franchise will stop by as we preview the New York Knicks in the postseason. But I am in a very, very giddy mood today, and I normally don't do this on April 16th. But you Met fans out there, you rubbed me the wrong way before this season started. You rubbed me the wrong way 5 days into the season. Sean Morash, not Met fan, rubbed me the wrong way 5 days into the season. Even Tiki Barber rubbed me the wrong way 5 days into this season. Just about every single person on this radio station rubbed me the wrong way 5 days into this baseball season because it was declared, it was firm, it was over. The Mets suck, right? They're dead. Trade everybody. Pete Alonso's gone. I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. The Mets are dead. Well, on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon on April 16th, let it be made crystal clear to you Met fans out there who didn't believe, to Tiki Barber, who's been sort of up and down on this Met team, to Sean Morash, who said they'd never see 500 again, and to basically 99.8% of this staff, you're going to be wrong, and you're wrong right now. Because it's not just that the Mets have won 8 out of 11. No. It's not just that the Mets won a great game last night against the Pirates. It's the way they're doing it. It's the fact that they fight back. They're down 3-0 last night. Normally you think, here we go. Mm-hmm. And they fight back. They did that against Atlanta. They did that against Kansas City, even in the game they lost. This Met team is fighting. This Met team is good. And I, as a Met fan, want to just tell you, I told you so. We have a baseball season. How you doing, Tiki?
I'm good, man. I was never down on this Met team. I was just very concerned about this Met team because, let's face it, they are exactly, at least I think, they are exactly what their current record says that they are. They're 500. They're still an evaluating team, but you don't know what's guaranteed going forward. It's not like, Francisco Lindor is all of a sudden the Francisco Lindor that we've seen each of the last couple of years in totality. Even though as a righty, it's baffling. And because listen to the game last night, they were talking about his swing and how much more level it is from the right side, and he's always high fly balls to left field as a left-handed batter. But I look at some of these pieces and I say, man, they should be good, but they're not there yet. And it's surprising because I expected Francisco Lindor to be really good. I know Pete Alonso is going to be really good. I hope that Jeff McNeil finds it back again, right? But at the same time, the record is exactly what I think they are, 500. So it's not good. It's not bad. It's just kind of what the record says they are.
I kindly disagree with you. They got off to an abysmal start. And while I can't delete the first 5 games of the season, I think what we've seen over the last 11 games is more likely what they are. So I don't look at them as a 500 team. Now, it is very, very early in the season. I understand that. And that was one of the calming things I said to you and other Met fans when they got off to the 0-5 start, that it's a very, very small sample size. But over the first few weeks of a season, you get to know a baseball team. And I think Yankee fans are getting to know their team. I'm getting to know my team. And one of the early indications I have about this team is, I think they've got an electric bullpen. Let's start there. Yeah. A part of why I thought this Met team would be better than most other people was because I thought they had a real strength at the end of games. Not just Edwin Diaz, but certainly having Edwin Diaz is a big help. Their bullpen has been awesome this year. Their starting pitching has been average. Mm-hmm. They have an offense that has a chance to be dynamic. Why? Their best hitter hasn't done anything yet. You mentioned Francisco Lindor and his struggles, and he showed you a little bit of a pulse last night, batting from the right side. But for the most part, Lindor's done nothing.
Yep.
But you've seen Brett Beatty produce. You even saw a big hit from DJ Stewart the other night. I think this offense has a chance to be really good. This bullpen already looks really good. And what this team has shown, and that's why, I was sort of embarrassed last week. I admit it. I was embarrassed to turn on a microphone, whether it was on the Rico or with you, and say, hey, the Mets had a moral victory. Because I hate that. I don't normally believe in moral victories.
It doesn't mean anything.
What does that actually mean?
Right.
But that game against Atlanta, where they fought back, I look back on it a week later, and I feel even better calling that a moral victory because that comeback showed you what this team is, that they are a team that is never going to give up, that when they're down 6-0, the game isn't over. And over the last year and a half, that's not how we have felt as Met fans. And I can tell the Met fans starting to believe differently in this team. Now, how can I tell? I'm not judging it based on social media. I'm not even judging it based on phone calls. And we'll love to hear from you, 877-337-6666. I'm going to tell you about something really small that I've learned about for the last 30 years. Close your eyes when you're at a Met game. It's not about the amount of people that are there. It's how it sounds. I've been in Shea Stadium. I've been in Citi Field. And you can close your eyes and you can hear the depression. You can hear the lack of faith. You can hear the way Met fans feel about their baseball team. I've had many seasons in which I've been able to do that. And then there are other seasons in which Bob Murphy used to say it. Close your eyes, 12,000 people sound like 40,000 people. That's when you know the fan base believes. When even though there's a small amount of people gathered, it sounds large. For the first time this season, last night at Citi Field, it was only 18,000 people. I acknowledge it was a small crowd. But if you closed your eyes, whether it was watching on SNY or you were in that building, if you closed your eyes, you heard energy and passion, and you heard a fan base very slowly. It takes time, people, very slowly, but you heard a fan base that believes. And for the first time this season, small sample size, for the first time in a long time, because I didn't hear it last year either, when you closed your eyes, you could hear a fan base coming back from the dead.
Let's go mad.
That's what I heard last night.
Well, hopefully they start going. Hopefully they start attending.
Look, that's a different issue,
right,
Tiki.
And we'll get to it. But last night was the perfect night for Met fans to say, you know what, screw it, let's go. Because it was perfect yesterday. It was 8 degrees, 67 degrees. It felt delicious outside.
Delicious.
It did. It was. It was one of those days. I had a T-shirt on for the first time in, I think, 2 months. But it was amazing to be outside. And yet, still, it was only 18,000. But I think this all goes back to the preseason expectation for this team. And let's be real. Nobody knew. Nobody knew what to expect from this Mets team. We didn't know what the bullpen would look like with Edwin Diaz coming back. Obviously, you expect him to be Edwin Diaz. And it took him, I mean, how many save opportunities has he had? 4, 3, 4? Something like that. But it feels like Edwin Diaz is Edwin Diaz. And Ottavino, even though he gives up a bomb here or there, he's the same.
Brooks Raley, how good has he looked?
Has been very good as well.
Reed Garrett, all of a sudden, you need guys to come out of nowhere. Reed Garrett's come out of nowhere.
You're right. Lopez has been good as well. So all these guys are doing exactly what they need to do when the starting pitching either falters or hits their limit. But the challenge for the Mets, and I know you talked about fighting back, but the reason the bullpen can be great is if they score runs, and they still haven't figured out how to consistently jump on teams early. Now, if they start doing that, that's when you say, wow, this Mets team might be something this year. They're not doing that yet, and it's because the guys, the McNeils, the Lindors, those guys aren't quite on all cylinders yet. Is it going to happen? I think so.
By the way, you just hit on something that excites me. When your better players aren't even performing to the level that you know they will, and you're finding ways to win.
Yeah.
And that's an example of that. Look, Lindor had a better day yesterday. Jeff McNeil's most important contribution yesterday was striking out and then running his ass off to first base. And you can all laugh about it, but that was the biggest moment of the game because there's about to be 2 outs and nobody on against Aroldis Chapman. And instead, Jeff McNeil knew what the hell was going on. So when he strikes out, he runs to first base and he reaches. And it started this huge inning. But when Harrison Bader ripped that RBI double, close your eyes because I did it. I felt the fan base believing in this team, and that takes a while because I get what you're saying. This was not an offseason that was awe-inspiring. I acknowledge that. There's a reason why a lot of Met fans went into this season very skeptical, and maybe some of you remain very skeptical, sample size of 16 games. But what they are starting to show you is that maybe they're better than you think. Maybe this baseball team is a lot better than you think. And I think what I am sensing from my fellow Met fans and even the haters out there, The losers and the haters like Sean Morash, who guaranteed on the radio they would never see 500 again. What's the Mets record right now, Sean?
500. I was wrong. Sorry, Met fans.
You were wrong. On April 15th, you were wrong. Didn't take until June. It took until April 15th. You were wrong.
By the way, when do you apologize to Met fans?
For what?
For having season's dead eyes?
No.
When does that happen?
No.
We wait till 2:40 for that?
First of all, here's what happened. When the Mets lost the first game of the doubleheader to drop to 0-5, yes, Sean accused me, and I think you joined in accusing my eyes of saying there was a death of a season in my eyes.
That was bad. That was 0-5.
I was upset, but that's not me declaring the season over. That's you guys implying that the look on my face.
You look shell-shocked.
I was. They were 0-5.
I know it.
It was a terrible, terrible start. And that's why these little moments that maybe at the time you don't realize, they turn out to be really big. Pete Alonso hitting that game-tying home run in the second game of the doubleheader was as important a hit. I know it's crazy to think because it was still technically March or the first week of April. How big of a hit does that look like it was now?
April 4th, yeah.
They were about to go 0-6. And even the comment about a moral victory against Atlanta, all of a sudden that looks big. And think back to that loss against Cincinnati. They lose a brutal game on a Saturday afternoon, the night of WrestleMania Night 1. They've got no bullpen available. That was a brutal, brutal, brutal loss. And the Mets responded. They responded by winning the series. They responded by beating Atlanta, a game they came back in. It's not just 8-8. Because, look, it's easy to pin 8-8 and say, come on, it's 500. What the hell are you celebrating? It's the idea and the look of this team that it's different. And by the way, it's okay to be wrong. Like, I have some anger, I admit, towards some of my fellow Met fans because I thought the negativity coming into this season was at an all-time high. And even though you were upset, you were down, and you were upset about the offseason, that shouldn't cloud you from what the team actually is. And so it kind of bothered me how over-the-top negative some Met fans were. Like this was going to be the worst team in baseball.
But it's easy to say what this team is, but don't you have to see them do it? Don't they have to prove?
I'm already starting to see it.
I know, but when you're talking at Met fans who were despondent or down on this team because of a lack of a interesting offseason, let's just put it softly, right? You didn't know what this team was going to be. Like, so the only way to have faith in this team is to see it, right? And so they're waiting to see it. Right, that's kind of my approach is when I look at the Mets. I'm not a Met fan like some of these callers that are going to call us, but as I look at the team, it needed to be proven to me, right? It needed to be shown to me on a consistent basis, and it is being shown to me on a consistent basis, at least as of the last 8 games or so. But to start the season, God, it was easy to just say, all right, it was just exactly what we expected. Nothing. And every single comment in the Met chat, every comment on social media, it was all the same. Same old Mets. I mean, how many times a year? Same old Mets. So it takes some extra oomph to get away from that. And luckily they've started to do it. But it by no means is the story of the season. We have no idea what the story of the season is going to be yet.
We have a long way to go, but when you are 16 games into a season, you only have 16 games to view. And so far, over the last 11 games that they've played, I see something very different about this team, something that makes me believe in this team, something that I think will eventually make Met fans believe in this team. Look, they've got to finish the job now. I think it's very important. I said this off air to Tiki. I don't think I said it on air. I said, I got to get to L.A. at 500 because the Mets are about to go to Los Angeles. We know how dangerous of a team the Dodgers are. Can you get to L.A. at 500? They are a split away over the next 2 days from accomplishing that small little goal. It's a tiny goal. It's not a huge goal, but what it would mean is winning 4 consecutive series, which is what the Mets are doing. They haven't won 9 in a row, but they're going out and they're winning 2 out of 3, and they're doing it with a formula that I think they're going to have to continue to use. A top-notch back into the bullpen, a decent rotation. Adrian Hauser yesterday was decent. He walked 5 guys, but he pitched into the 6th inning. An offense that's opportunistic, an offense that comes up in the big moment, like we saw yesterday from DJ Stewart, like we saw yesterday from Harrison Bader, and continue to do it, and continue to slowly change the minds of the majority. Because the Met fan majority didn't believe. And what I ask you today, only 16 games in, because I heard it last night at Citi Field. I heard it with my ears. I heard a fan base starting to believe. Does the Met fan believe? Or Do you think this is all just a giant waste of time and they're going to lose 90 games?
I don't think it's a waste of time. The team has too many good players on it, and especially if Brett Beatty stays the way that he is playing, and Francisco Alvarez plays like he did for most of last season and the beginning of this season, they'll be fine, right? The question is it just fine, or is there an elevation from fine? Because right now, and I'll say it again, they are exactly what their record is. They had a horrendous start. They've been great over 8 of their last 11, but that's exactly where they are.
So
8-8 right now.
8-8 now.
And here's the challenge, though, and Sean brought this up, and this is why he was so down on the team at the beginning.
Because he's a
season.
hater. That's
no,
why.
he's not a hater.
I'm not a hater.
I think he was being realistic. You start the season 0-5. I mean, the Detroit Tigers, you lose the first 2 in horrendous fashion. Now you find a way to win the second one, or the third game, I should say. But then you're on the road against Cincinnati and Atlanta, and then you have Pittsburgh coming. Or no, wait, who is it? It's Cincinnati, Atlanta, Kansas City, and then you have Pittsburgh, and then you go on the road again.
Not easy,
right? Against the Dodgers and the Giants. Like when you look at that first 2 months or month and a half of the season, if you didn't get off to a fast start, it was going to be daunting.
Well, they didn't get off to a fast start.
I know.
They recovered from it.
They did recover, but they're exactly where
So
I think a lot of people thought they would be. Kind of 500. Nobody thought they were going to go 0-5 to start the season.
No, I agree. It's
right?
funny.
It was going to be splits. Splits here. Maybe you steal some in Atlanta, right? Maybe you do well against Cincinnati. Like it was just going to be splits. And then let's see what happens when you get to that first real road trip, when you go across the country to Los Angeles and San Francisco and play against the big boys, at least the perceived big boys in the National League. That's the first real test. They've weathered it.
Yeah.
But again, they're right where their record says they are. They're 500.
They have not had a winning streak yet. Think about it. They overcame the 0-5 start by just going out and winning series. But when they got off to the 0-5 start, and this is what led to Sean taking a lot of heat last night, as he should, and a little bit of heat today. I asked a question right here on this radio station, on this show. I said, okay, the Mets are 0-5. Maybe they were 1-5 after they got the win. Will they ever see 500 again? 3 of us had faith. 3 of us said, yeah, I think they will. Tommy Lugauer had faith. By the way, Tommy, all the Met fans I'm mad at, you're not one of them. I think you have been rather, sort of on my side, if you will.
Measured?
No, absolutely. I said they would be 500 by this week. I had the faith of the world. And they don't even have JD or Senga back yet. I'm all good. I think they're a playoff team.
Is JD coming back?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. I don't even
See? I mean, I would hope so.
I don't even want to think about it until he's back. So Loogie was right. I asked myself the question. I said, yeah, they'll get back to 500. I was right. Tiki said, yeah, I think they'll get back. He wasn't as sure about it, but they did. Sean said no, he takes it out. I appreciate that you're owning the loss.
I am on it. I know. However, if we get that rain out in Atlanta, maybe I'm still not taking an L, but an L's an L.
Oh, stop. Don't bring up rain outs.
An L's an L. Now what, though, Ev?
Oh, here's the now what. I'm glad you asked. So here's my follow-up question, since that kind of prediction game has been settled. Will the Mets see under 500 again? Will the Mets
Tonight.
I mean, that could happen tonight.
It could happen, or it may not. Or they win the next 2 and they never see it again. So, Tiki Barber, will the Mets see under 500 ever again?
Of course they will.
Of course they will.
Yes. They're going to go on a 3-game losing streak at some point. They're going to dip below 500, and then they'll be back above. Like this team, you're not listening to what I'm saying.
I'm listening. I just don't agree with you.
My interpretation is that this team is gonna yo-yo. They're gonna yo-yo you. They're gonna ride up it's the rolling hills. If you're a marathoner, the rolling hills. Rolling hills suck because when you go downhill, you're trying to slow yourself down. You're blowing your quads up. Then you run uphill, you're blowing your hamstrings up. And eventually, you just
what a description.
I'm just telling you, just wear yourself out. Like what this team feels like to me. They're rolling hills. Now maybe they get on an energy burst and they just climb one and it's awesome and they pull 10 games above 500, but I'm not seeing that
Okay,
yet.
you know what? Let me change the question then, all right? When I first asked you about them seeing 500 again, they were 5 games under 500. Will
Yes.
the Mets see 5 games under 500 again, in your opinion?
I don't think so.
No. All right, Sean, will the Mets see 5 games under 500 again?
No.
There you go, he believes. Loogie, will the Mets see 5 under 500 again?
No.
Yeah, they're pitching too well.
No.
We all believe.
It's because they're pitching well.
Not sure they'll see 5 games over 500 again.
Well, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. It's tough to say they won't see under 500 again because all they have to do is lose tonight, and I'll be in the building, and I could just sense that feeling of walking out of Citi Field at 9:45 p.m. and having Loogie tweet out, Evans a mush, Evans a mush, they're under 500. But I feel good about where this team's at. We'll get to your calls next. Do you agree? And why can the Mets not get people to show up? On a beautiful night at Citi Field last night, they only announced 18,000 people. Why? We'll try to handle it coming up, 877-337-6666. A lot of hockey to get to as well. The New York Rangers are in the postseason. They've won the President's Trophy. Who are they playing in the first round? There's 4 possibilities. We'll discuss it. We'll continue to tribute the great John Sterling throughout the show.